Hello, welcome to this fourth episode of Daughters and Dragons. I'm Raphael, self-proclaimed do-it-yourself game designer, dungeon master, ex-dungeon master, and we are talking about designing a game, a role-playing game that can substitute Dungeons and Dragons, especially for the age groups where it's not really that good. In particular, not only age groups, but groups of people, yeah, like people that just don't want to study a whole rule book for playing something that is actually so easy as a structured make-believe game, and kids. So if you're joining now, I recommend watching at least the previous video, because we're gonna continue talking about the basic mechanics of the game, which start from, of course, character creation. Last time we talked about the ability scores, the 6 ability scores, and 3 derived resources, pools of shared resources. About that, I think I will not say much more. I might start editing the videos and add some images to just give a brief idea of what I'm talking about, although of course you can follow on Medium, but it's not so comfortable, especially if you're on a mobile device. So I might just cover my face finally with some images. So today we're gonna talk about how the abilities interact with each other, which is the basic mechanic of the game. Yeah, like you cannot use them alone, you use them only together, coupled together. And you cannot make just, or at least at the beginning, let's say in the basic game, you cannot just couple any ability with any other. I defined only 8 couples that work, that have sense, that make sense, and these are divided themselves into 4 categories. There are, of course, temporary names on everything. Let's say the categories go from the most bodily, physical abilities, or in this case, I call them aspects, also temporary name, down to even spiritual, social abilities on the other end of the spectrum. And we have in the middle 2 other groupings, which I call practical and theoretical or intellectual. Gotta think about it. So the most physical, bodily aspects are 2. All of these will be 2, of course, because it's 8 divided by 4, and each of these 2 coupled aspects will be one passive, one active, or if you want, a trait and a skill. They will become fully formed traits and skills later when we add something to them, and I think I'm gonna manage to talk even about that, because I'm gonna be quick now. Yeah, so first, physical trait. So the passive one is endurance, easy, strength plus vitality. Not much to say. Compared to the active one, movement, strength plus dexterity. Now, if you remember, the shared pools of resources are also made by couples, and this also reflects in the what resource you have to spend when using these particular couplings of abilities. So for example, while endurance uses only bodily or somatic, I used to call them, ability scores, meaning that it will only use stamina as a resource, movement might require, for some actions, not every simple movement, or not every simple movement, but complex stuff, some usage of focus as a resource. So the resource that limits usage turn by turn in the game. Yeah. So for example, since I named it, the icon of focus is the bullseye with the arrow hitting the center, you understand that, for example, shooting arrows, yeah, from a bow or anything else, will at some point require focus, which means, sorry, I pressed wrong. I was saying you will not be able to do it all the time. Yeah, I mean, not any number of turns in a row. You will probably need to take a moment, take a break between 2, 3, and 4 turns, depending on your focus. Okay, that's how these aspects work. So the next ones would be instinct and technique, the what I call practical aspects, because yeah, it's action anyway. And instinct, I'm on the fence on this one, because as of now, to balance out the number of derived skills and traits from these ones, which I will talk about a bit later, I made it the result or the coupling of dexterity and vitality, thinking about it more as a survival instinct, yeah, because it's instinct. But it might make much more sense as dexterity and senses, because you still gotta perceive the danger to react to it, right? Makes much more sense. Consider also that it doesn't have to be the same for every character. There might be characters using basically having instincts based on dexterity and senses. I'm thinking, for example, monks, rogues, and so on. And there might be characters a bit more, warrior types that base it on vitality. Barbarians, dexterity and vitality makes more sense. So see, the system is very flexible. The default couplings can be just default couplings, and then players can just choose. If they use classes, the classes will make the choice. It will not be necessary to use classes, especially with kids. You can play more of a free-form system where they basically just decide whatever they wanna be and how they wanna do it. Yeah. So next on the line would be technique. That's a bit of like new thing in this type of game, if we think about it. And it's dexterity plus mind, or intelligence if we go back to the original name of mind. I'm still thinking about it. And this will be for fine motor skills, everything that requires thought apart from movement. Yeah. And actually, if you remember that dexterity and mind go together as the mental skills, this is actually the only coupling that requires only focus, meaning that it's actions that will not actually tire your body. They will mostly, although focus is a bit connected to the usage of your body as well, but let's say that they will not tire you in the sense that you will need a nap, or you will feel starved afterwards. It's mostly a mental type of tiredness, which can and should be addressed on a much faster basis. Yeah, it's stuff that you just cannot do for long periods of protracted time, and I mean just by long I mean just turns, which are seconds in the game. So yeah, quite limited, but also quite easy to get. You just take an action to refocus and you're fine. So this skill, it's a skill. It will control many things, especially combat related, but not only. In fact, the emoji for it is crossed tools. I will show the image most probably, because usually it's to use some tool or weapon. And the previous one, instinct, is a little lightning, because we're talking something quick, fast reactions, while the first two are the running man or woman, and the powerlifting man or woman for endurance. Okay, so the next ones are what I right now call theoretical and social spiritual. Not yet. I mean, it's both, but yeah, we will see. So we start with wisdom returning. I said it will return, and it's the result. This one, yes, it's set in stone because it's perfect. Mind and senses, yeah. So it's how you process your surroundings and make something out of them, make some knowledge out of them. In fact, you will see it actually controls knowledge, which is kind of new. Usually knowledge was quite opposed to wisdom. I think this is not really intuitive for, you know, the natural use of the wisdom word. So wisdom will control knowledge. What else? Following that, we have one that has a bit of a weird name, maybe brilliance. Why this name? Because it's supposed to be not just intelligence, not just processing power, but also how you express it. In fact, it's mind plus charisma. It's extremely important for magic. You might say it's the magical skill by default, yeah, but it has quite a few subdivisions. We will talk about them later. And yeah, for example, invention is connected to brilliance. You can imagine, you can see that since it uses charisma, which is a primal ability, it will also use the spirit resource, which, as I said, is basically main mana, like magical energy. And going forward into the even more spirit focused ones, we get awareness, the passive one, which is, before the passive one was wisdom, I think it's clear, and now it's awareness, which is senses plus charisma. This is about social awareness, but not only. It's also a deep awareness, even understanding a bit, having an intuition even about the cosmos and, you know, the powers surrounding you. It's very hippie, yeah. And in fact, the emoji is that of a starry-eyed face. The active aspect of it, or the active aspect of this grouping, is called exactly power, and it's a bit of a perhaps controversial name at this point in time, but I think it works because it's power over others, but also power over magic. I group them together because, as I said, I want magic to be kind of rooted into stuff that is real, such as social ability and power. Why? Because it makes sense. You know, usually magic influences others, and I'm basically making a statement that magic is a bit of a super powered version of the convincing power over others. Of course, it will not be used directly by wizards, but it will be used by other types of spell and magic users, such as warlocks, right? The ones that will have to convince an entity to do their own bidding. And power is incredibly charisma plus vitality, so it's even slightly physical. Yes, these are all the couplings. I didn't name all the emojis because you should be able to see them in the annexed graphics. But yeah, you will see that power for now is really a crown, and so on and so forth. It's quite perhaps I should just say that for wisdom, it's quite strange maybe to see this shooting star, but I like the concept. You know, it's about knowing nature mostly, but of course not only. But yeah, it made sense to me that it should have some cosmic thing tied to it. Okay, so the time is already running out, and I will just anticipate that to actually make up the actual skills and traits, these are already skills and traits, But let's say the more defined the skills and traits, the sub types, the specific actions, you will actually couple these couplings with a third element, which is spirit animals, which are a unique thing, although I will reveal right now, if you want to look into it, that they work quite similarly to the latest edition Legend of the Five Rings elements. And in fact, spirit animals are deeply tied to elements. Basically, they are a personification of each of the four basic elements, and what they do is they modulate these traits and skills into something more specific. To make an example, we talked about power last, power over others. So there can be two types, right? If you use them together, if you use power together with the lion spirit, that's gonna be leadership, or actually the verb to lead, because I'm trying to use verbs for the actions and nouns for the traits, the fixed characteristics. So it's to lead is power with lion, and to manipulate is power with eagle. Eagle, which might sound strange. Yeah, the spirits are lion, eagle, unicorn, and dragon, respectively. Lion is fire, eagle is air, dragon is earth, and unicorn is water, because I didn't have a good enough alternative that could be aquatic, an aquatic animal as an emoji. They just really look terrible and they're not iconic enough. It doesn't matter because it's very symbolic. It doesn't have to be actually connected to water, you know, because in any case the water aspect is more of a related thing and not just the translation of the concept. So I'm giving you a lot of stuff today to think about. Why I said strangely about manipulate with eagle. Well, eagle represents air, which in turn I tried to take quite closely, like I didn't change much from the concept, the Japanese influenced concept of Legend of the Five Rings, which makes air quite a manipulative force. It would make more sense if the spirit would be, for example, the crow or some kind of black bird, yeah, like an animal that is kind of ominous instead of the majestic eagle. But I'm not so sure yet. I think anyway, eagle as a predator, as a big, bird of prey, can manifest those aspects as well. You will see which other aspects next time when I'm gonna focus on what do these animals do, what do they bring to the table, literally. So until now, have a nice everything, and I'm heading to work. Bye bye.